Welcome everybody at this AMA Ask Me Anything with today Pollen. Pollen is an index asset pool where anyone can propose or to invest or divest crypto tokens. Pollen is a DAO, so it's decentralized and self-governed. And besides that, Pollen rewards good decisions for members who have made beneficial proposals, or even for people who have voted on the beneficial proposals. But you know, what did I just say?
I don't know.
For a lot of people, it's pretty hard to digest within 50 seconds. So that's why we have arranged this AMA Ask Me Anything with Roman Krywulych, if I pronounce it right. Roman Krywulych. Hi, Roman. Welcome. And how are you feeling of rocking this AMA today, my friend?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
All right. And Roman is the co-founder and CEO of Pollen, so he knows it inside out. So he will answer all questions. COO, right?
Yes, there we go.
Yeah, COO, right? If you have additional questions, you can put all your questions below on our YouTube channel, and we keep that in mind, and we answer all the questions, and we are connected with Pollen, so everything is going to be all right, and everything is going to be answered. So next to me, Hien, co-founder of DCI. Welcome, Hien, also.
Thank you.
Dutch crypto investors. My name is Wesley from Business and Strategies. I will be your host for the day. And yeah, so let's take it away. Before we dive into the deep, we're gonna do a brief index. First, phase one is a little introduction about Pollen. Roman is gonna give the introduction about Pollen, the team and the people behind it and everything like that. The first phase, the second phase, the first phase of the questionnaire will be our questions from Team DCI we have conducted together while reading and diving into the deep in the whole Pollen project, to give a good structure for you guys within this whole AMA. And the third and the last phase, that's a fun part for a lot of the community members, right? That are the community questions. We have got sent in a lot of questions, and you know, we want to thank our whole community from the bottom of our heart for thank you for being that engaged with us. And we have selected 5 questions from the community, and every guy or girl who've sent in the questions, they are winning an amount of crypto USDs. Like I thought it was BUSD, right?
Yeah, BUSD.
BUSD, right?
Yes.
So I will pronounce the name if your question is BUSD. And again, thank you guys for everything and all your engagement. So without further ado, Roman, let's kick it off. And can you tell us a little bit, before we go into the questions, a little bit more about you as co-founder and COO himself, but also the team you guys have collected around Pollen, and you know, the strong team, and maybe a little bit about the decision makers. So Roman, the stage is yours. Tell us everything.
Great, thanks guys. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, excited to be on with you and the Dutch crypto investor community. Just a bit about my background personally, and then how kind of arrived at Pollen in the first place. Started my career on Wall Street, worked in traditional finance at NASDAQ for a few years. Got pretty serious about crypto around earlier 2017 to transition professionally, having started buying Bitcoin in 2014.
You were on time.
Yeah. I'll never forget. $495, 2014. First.
Oh, great.
I can't. Unfortunately, I can't say I hold all that original Bitcoin. I don't think anyone can.
Don't know the problem, right?
Sorry.
But yeah, so come 2017, I got introduced to, at the time, a little tiny project no one had ever heard of by the name of Celsius Network, and I think by now you might have heard of them. So I joined there as a senior risk manager, generally helping out with ICO, tokenomics, token allocation, and put together their first crypto loan model, which kind of serves as a backbone for their general business model there. Since then, been consulting, advising other crypto startups, and kind of came up with, I got plugged in very early with Philip Varian, other co-founder of Pollen, who had put together essentially this open source developer project, really interesting, working on a DAO with portfolio management kind of the idea of bringing decentralization to portfolio management. So I kind of brought the business side, if you will, to Pollen and helped build out that side. So it's myself, Philip Varian, his backgrounds in tech, in the banking sector from UBS. We've also got Keith Baumwald, my former colleague. We worked together at Celsius. He actually introduced me to Celsius.
Right. So,
So
connected, right? Yeah.
yeah, really close, Nick team. We've got, a number of people from, all sorts of companies and backgrounds in the crypto industry. So yeah, really excited kind of, how it's all come together and what we're trying to do, to bring decentralization to portfolio management.
Yeah. So it sounds like a team with pretty couple of years of experience, a lot of experience when you compare it to the time frame crypto is born, right?
Yeah, exactly. We've, every person on the team has probably on average at least 3 years of experience, like professional working experience in crypto.
That's a lot in this scene, right?
Yes.
All right, now thanks for your introduction. I think that was crystal clear, and let's hop over to the first question. That's of course a little bit connected to the introduction, and that's the question about starting the company. When you start a company, you're gonna solve a problem, for at least most of the times, right? So could you describe a little bit about the fact, the Pollen project is started, but what underlying problem do you guys solve in the space right now?
So great question. So in the traditional finance, portfolio management makes up a huge part of the industry that's totally untapped and virtually unexplored in crypto, especially in a decentralized way, right? So again, going back to a few years ago, myself and Keith start at Celsius. At that time, lending was a really new idea in crypto. Yield as the next, app, big killer app for crypto was not a popularly held belief. It was all very just new. But of course, between them and BlockFi and Nexo really led the charge for building out lending and yield solutions, like financial services building block number one, if you will, for crypto. And then from there, we started to move to decentralized versions of those, Aave, Compound. But there was a missing piece, and that missing piece was liquidity for a decentralized environment. And so Uniswap, of course, was the breakthrough moment there. Yep. So with lending and then now liquidity solutions, we have two main financial services building blocks built out for crypto, and specifically now for a decentralized environment, right? An on-chain environment.
Yeah.
What's next? What's like another, fundamental building block that's missing?
Yeah.
So we think portfolio management is that. There's a couple existing projects that have started slowly diving into this space, right? There's the DeFi Pulse Index. There are some index tokens, but none have really looked at how do you fundamentally change the approach to asset management. Like if Wall Street bets all wanted to show up and trade together in one place, or any community for that matter, it's not possible right now. But Pollen, will make that possible.
Okay, Roman, thanks. And talking about the index asset pool, can you touch a little bit more about the use case and what it's really about, the portfolio manager within Pollen?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. So portfolio management in the traditional world is obviously makes up a huge part of the financial services industry. Everything from BlackRock to and ETFs, pioneering, revolutionizing ETFs, to Blackstone, actively managed portfolios and hedge funds. It's a huge segment of the industry that's totally largely untapped in crypto right now. And critically, there also are no decentralized approaches to portfolio management yet. So what Pollen really is essentially, decentralizing that whole industry, that whole ecosystem, the way that Uniswap essentially, approached liquidity in a different way to make it work. on an on-chain environment and a decentralized environment.
Yeah.
Pollen is doing that for portfolio management, for asset management, and doing it from the ground up in a different way, for an on-chain environment, where anyone can, instead of it being, the asset manager who makes all the decisions, now anyone is in the driver's seat. Anyone can make the decisions for what, tokens, what assets should be added to a portfolio,
Yeah.
and in turn share in the rewards for their decisions, for participating in managing the portfolio.
All right. And yeah, for us it's clear, but I want to make sure that this for everybody who's listening as podcast or on YouTube, it's also very clear. So, we understand that Pollen is an index asset tool with a portfolio manager, right? But could you explain a little bit more in depth the meaning of an index asset pool and how the all-day people can do a proposal within for a portfolio manager, for instance?
Yeah, so when you come onto the Pollen platform, the first thing you'll notice is there's 2 tokens. So anyone can come on right now and try it out themselves on the alpha. There's alpha.pollen.id.
Yeah.
Switch your MetaMask wallet to the Robson test network, and you can play around with it yourself. So first thing you'll notice is there's 2 tokens. There's PAI, P-A-I, Pollen Asset Index,
Yeah.
and Pollen token. So Pollen is the governance token. It's essentially your voting power.
But that's
and
important
also,
to know, the voting power, only the voting power, right?
it's your voting power. It's also how you get rewarded for your actions in helping to manage a portfolio, specifically to help manage PAI. So when you come on, you'll see you can click there's tiles. You can see proposals that other people have made to either add or remove assets to the portfolio, to the index, essentially to PAI or what's backing PAI. And you can just go on, click, and vote yes or vote no, very, in a very intuitive way with your Pollen tokens, and essentially be part of the investment making decision process, or the investment decision making process rather. But how do you get Pollen tokens in the first place? That's through your actions, through your activity, by voting, by submitting proposals, by executing proposals, essentially for doing useful things to help manage your portfolio in some small capacity that you as an individual user, choose to do. So then that in turn turns into your voting power.
All right. And okay, that's clear. And but how can I do a proposal for an investment, for instance?
Yeah, so when you come on, there's a button that says create proposal.
Okay, yeah.
Just go ahead and click that. On the alpha, anyone can do it. On mainnet will require some minimum threshold of Pollen tokens that you already hold in order to create a proposal. But you just go create a proposal. The next screen says, do you want to say to add or remove an asset from the portfolio? So any ERC20 token is eligible for launch. It'll be a curated list so that people can't add all sorts of random crazy tokens, but big tokens will be eligible, as well as ETH, of course. And then you just click through, you say how many you want to add. That has an exchange rate for PAI at that time based on the current price of PAI. And then you hit submit. When you hit submit, it drops it automatically into Discord, so then other people can see the proposal and talk about it, click through directly onto the website to go and vote on it. And you can see right now on our alpha that there are any average proposal has probably a dozen or more people voting on it, and that's just in a test environment with no real value.
Already a lot,
yeah. And there's dozens of proposals at any given time that are available and people are voting on. So people are already using it in a test environment.
So that's also mean the more active you are within the proposal, the voting, the more Pollen tokens you can earn, right?
Exactly. So there's an incentive to be 2 things. One, active and participate in helping to manage the portfolio, and 2, for making good decisions that help manage the portfolio. So right now on Alpha, it's more focused on that first part. It's a little bit basic, if you will, the kind of the incentive structure, the way it's calculated specifically. But we're currently working on improving that so that it takes into account what impact did your decision have on the performance of the portfolio. So that way we'll be able to essentially reward the top decision makers over time, which, eventually we'll have essentially a delegation method where people will just be able to delegate to the top performers and not have to actively vote on everything themselves. And then they still share some of the rewards, but you can be more passive. So essentially you could split the rewards between yourself and who you delegate to.
All right.
Okay, great.
Oh, I didn't know this already. So that's good that you put this on.
Yes.
Okay, clear. I guess it's clear. And you touched already. You had a question about the tokens, but you touched it already.
So you told us Pollen has two types of tokens. So can you also tell me more about the tokenomics? Because if there are two tokens, how's the tokenomics? And when you are launching, will there be two tokens going live or just one?
So I'll start with the Pollen token, which is the governance token and central to the use of the platform. So I'll touch on our Pollenomics, if you will.
Pollenomics.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Pollen token is minted over approximately 4 years.
4 years.
And as it's minted, you essentially earn pollen based on your relative reputation, your points that you accumulate, and relative to everyone else's, and depending on how many users there are, etc. So that's how you essentially earn Pollen token. And then once you have Pollen token, now you have voting power that you can use on future investment proposals, for either your own proposals or for others that people submit that you can use to vote. So unlike most current utility or governance tokens, from day one there is true utility and genuine governance in a way that unfortunately is doesn't really exist yet in DeFi. I don't know what you can practically do with your uni token. In theory you can do something with it, but with Pollen token you'll be able to do something from day one with it. It has a real integral purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's Pollen. And then Pi is the way that DAI is backed by the US dollar, of course through over collateralized ETH officially. Pi, in our thinking from moving from the world of yield and stable coins to now the world of community run portfolios and decentralized asset management, Pi is backed by the portfolio. Of course, the portfolio representing the community's collective decisions. So it's fully backed, 1-to-1, 100% collateralized by every token that's in the portfolio. So the price is just a dollar weighted average price of the tokens in the portfolio. As the price of the underlying assets move up or down, Pi moves up and down.
So it's really a stable coin.
You can think of it like a stable coin in that it's fully backed and fully collateralized, but not stable coin in that it's pegged to the dollar. Instead, it's more like an ETF, right? That moves as the performance of stocks move in under the hood in that ETF, right? Like QQQ, which tracks NASDAQ 100, that moves as all the stocks, Apple, Tesla, everything move, right? So similarly, Pi functions that way.
Yeah. Okay.
And because users are important, what about multi-chain? Because Pollen is now on an Ethereum platform. Can you tell me more about other chains? Will you also implement it, like Binance Smart Chains, Polkadot, or Solana?
Yeah. So for launch, we've built on Ethereum just because that's where the assets are. Again, we see this as really like a move to DeFi 2.0. So right now, all of DeFi is based around really one thing, maybe two things. It's all about liquidity pools and lending, but we're moving now towards, you know, this kind of totally new direction, this new wave of decentralized asset pools. And as in turn, as people decide to move their assets to other chains, whether that's Polygon or BSC, and as those become bigger, larger environments, then we'll certainly aim to deploy on there as well. I know like Uniswap is looking to deploy coming up on Polygon shortly.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, essentially once there's assets and liquidity on those chains, then we'll look to expand there. And certainly from a scaling perspective, it's much cheaper for people to use.
Okay, just focus more on Polygon.
Yeah, I mean, so we haven't committed yet to a specific layer 2 or other chain.
Yeah, but it's more like open solutions, right? So you guys are checking, you know, what's most beneficial on at the moment, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I like to think of, you know, I've come to start thinking of these layer 2 solutions more as different universes that assets can exist, as opposed to just thinking them of like scaling solutions for cheaper fees. Because in order for it to be useful, like the assets have to move there first, right? If everyone decides, you know what, we're fed up with, you know, Ethereum gas costs, I'm gonna, you know, convert all my ERC20 tokens to BSC versions or to Polygon versions or whatever, then until that happens, you know, there isn't like the immediate need for Pollen to have a deployment on those chains. But once, you know, there's, you know, kind of more users and more assets on those chains, then certainly we'll look to follow suit.
Okay, great and clear also. And let's hop a little bit back to one or two questions ago.
Yes. I'll just add, we're currently talking with a few different layer 2
so it's already in processing. Okay.
Yeah, it's in process. I just like can't disclose exactly like what's where. Yeah,
maybe in the end I'm gonna teach you a little bit to drop some information, but okay, thanks for the ad. And so again, let's hop like 2-3 questions ago. Pollen is rewarding also good decisions, right? But is there a difference in the rewards? For example, when I propose on an invest or divest, or I vote on a current proposal, are there difference in the rewards? For instance, do I get rewarded more when voting, or do I get rewarded more when I do a proposal?
Yeah, so right now, so that's exactly what's being worked on behind the scenes. We have like a couple PhDs actually working on our modeling for the reward system. Exactly. What's visible right now and live on the alpha, on the testnet, it's a bit more kind of, you know, basic rewarding. So right now everyone just gets 100 points for either creating a proposal or for voting on a proposal on the testnet, and then you accumulate some points, and based on those points, that translates to some portion of Pollen tokens that you earn as they're minted, and based on how many other users there are and their points, right? So that's how it's working right now. But yeah, 100%, we are working on making this a much more sophisticated, you know, rewarding system.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and I guess then when you create a proposal, that would be a little bit higher for the rewardings than only vote, because I think voting is more easy than creating a proposal, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll aim to do it in such a way that it incentivizes people with good original thoughts, right? Bringing to it.
Exactly, yeah.
And there's a field you can provide a reason for your motivation for submitting a proposal. For example, if you're saying you want to add, you know, BAL tokens, balancer tokens, you can put in why, so then everyone else will see why. Like maybe you have
also to convince a little bit why your proposal is the good way to go.
Exactly, like you're optimistic on I don't know, something that Balancer's doing, right? Or like their LBPs, their liquidity bootstrapping proposals, right? As their kind of a new innovation, or Uniswap, like adding Uni because something to do with Uniswap v3, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell people, you can, provide a picture, if you will.
I will be very curious how you guys going to develop this, so for on the other side, you have to convince people to make proposals, right? So that that there are new things other people can vote on, because the one can't go without the other, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah, so I mean, community engagement is obviously very important through, whether that's Dutch crypto investors or any other community, right? So we hope and anticipate that people will rally support around, for example, their proposals, etc. But critically, as part of the incentive structure, the rewards structure, it's not just, like higher rewards for the proposal itself, but critically if it performs well, of course, because that's ultimately,
That's the ultimate goal. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, thanks. Great. Do you have any ads for this? I think.
No, so far not.
Then I have one question we saw in the roadmap.
Hmm.
And in the roadmap, I guess it was in Q3, support for synthetic assets.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the way of supporting synthetic assets, and is there, for instance, a cooperation, for instance, with synthetics or something, or would you be more like a competitor to these kind of platforms?
Yes. Yeah. Great question. So there's no explicit cooperation yet. This is still further down the road.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, as mentioned, any ERC20 token in theory is, can be used and submitted as a proposal to add to the portfolio to back Pi. I also have another point that I'll mention in a second. But on that point, the question there is really more around kind of the regulatory concerns, because then those are securities, right? Because then there's synthetic versions of stock. And using those in a decentralized, protocol such as ours, like we just want to make sure, like, to approach that, kind of appropriately, if you will. So starting with utility tokens is kind of, the way to go that we see it, at least right now. But certainly, if we can get to essentially community I mean, think about, like, then you start getting into, like, okay, Wall Street bets could all show up and throw in, GameStop, like synthetic GameStop and Nokia and whatever, and have their own portfolio essentially of this on Pollen, which brings me to my next point that I haven't touched on yet, which is that, so we're starting with Pi as essentially the single, like, main portfolio or index token, but will in the future enable people to create their own custom indices, their own custom asset pools as well. So we'll secure it through the Pollen token governance system, if you will, but allowing anyone to create their own pools, right? So you could have a DCI token, you could have DCI Pi, you could have WSB Pi, you can imagine DGen Pi, all sorts of interesting creative things.
That's a very interesting possibility. And the time frame for that, maybe I know you probably can't say a specific date, but
yeah, I don't want to say a specific date for that. We want to launch with one working product. We're like 90% of the way there on that. As you can see, on the alpha, it's pretty much there. But then as far as enabling these custom portfolios, sometime, after launch, let's just say, for now.
After launch, okay. We keep you guys, we keep connected, okay. Thanks. Yeah, I think it would be a great ad for the pollen project, the synthetic assets. I think there's a lot of room to grow also in that space.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's look. Do you have any ad for this? I have one last question from our side.
Yeah, when are you going to launch, and have you considered all certain platforms like IDO platforms such as Kickstarter or
Yes.
Vision?
So I don't want to disclose any sort of
Why?
public sale platform at this point in time, but
We understand that there are coming 2 teasers more. So
yeah, we are targeting, let's say, between June and July as
okay.
a launch.
Be specific. Okay.
We're getting a lot of traction, let's just say. You know, every platform we've spoken with so far has been optimistic on Pollen and likes what we're doing. So we're really just trying to make sure to go with, you know, one that makes the most sense from a long-term perspective.
Okay.
I'll leave it there without saying anything more.
No. Your last question?
Now, the last question from our side, from the DCI side, is it's a question not too far into deep, but it is more like it's a helicopter view. When I read about Pollen the first time, and we talked about it, you know, it was not crystal clear what the benefits are of Pollen within 3 seconds, right? I think it's pretty obvious because it's, you know, it's a little bit complex for all day people. You know, I just gave an example for instance, my mother, you know, who's 65 years old. So I think there's a lot of potential of Pollen. You know, I'm pretty bullish about Pollen, but how do you guys gonna cover the fact that it's not that easy to understand for the all-day user? You know what I'm trying to cover here?
Yeah, so I can appreciate that. Again, I think we're taking, so most things popping up in DeFi right now are, while they're intuitive to existing DeFi users, to the rest of the outside world, this is like so left field. Like, I mean, it's just so opaque, right? And obscure. So in my mind, trying to do something that's similar to the rest of DeFi doesn't actually really make all that much sense, because they're not going to attract millions and millions of users. There's only 1 million total DeFi users across everything right now. I just saw that recently, like the other day. So, you know, we're trying to push this in a whole new direction here. You know, again, from lending to then liquidity to now portfolio management. It's a brand new direction. It's a brand new shift for DeFi, and critically, I think the user interface speaks for itself and is maybe even easier than Uniswap. Probably there's more components. It's a little more moving pieces, but like the simplicity of the user experience, you know, is really important to us. So you know, credit has to go to our development team. You know, Ahmed, Vadim, Adam, you know, all them. They did an amazing 100%. Job pulling, you know, on the front end experience, but pulling all the data together. You know, from, you know, using the graph, you know, using Chainlink, etc. Like it's you know, to create that kind of easy experience ultimately for the user.
So if I understand it correctly, then is the first focus on the current DeFi users, right? And after that, you know, when it's growing, you guys are gonna try to find some ways to pinpoint to focus on the mainstream newcomers into the space, right?
Yeah. So you figure most users will fall approximately into one of 2 camps. There'll be the really active users who love it and are highly motivated because they're incentivized to use it, to help manage the portfolio, to vote on it, to earn pollen, right? And then there'll be the more passive users who just want the benefit of the exposure to something like Pi or something like that, where they understand that it's managed by this community, and they don't necessarily have to do it all themselves. They can just hold this token to gain the benefits of holding essentially a whole portfolio of tokens, a whole suite of tokens. I don't know about you, but I don't have time to go through and buy like 20 different tokens. If you just hold Pi, boom, you have exposure to an actively rebalanced portfolio by a whole community of users that are incentivized to manage it and essentially curate it well. And then similarly, if you then believe in the model there, then of course there's a reason to hold Pollen just passively, even because there's use for it on the platform, and you can just passively delegate to someone else and still earn some tokens. So effectively like passive yield on top of it if you wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. To me, that sounds really interesting because I think we don't have any much time left to manage like 20, exactly. 30, 40 tokens, right? Okay, thanks. I think that was very clear. Then right now we're gonna go to the last and the third phase of this AMA, and that are the community questions. Yes. So as I've said, we have selected 5 community questions, Roman, and again to our community, thank you for all the engagement, all the questions you guys have sent in, and don't forget to like and subscribe at the channel and put your comments below if you have any additional questions. And the name I pronounce before the question is winning 50 BUSD exactly. Per question, right? So
50 BUSD.
50 BUSD, yes.
Wow.
So here we go. The first one, Roman, community questions. Are you ready, my friend? Does voting cost any ETH gas fees?
So the answer to that for now is yes. It is a transaction on Ethereum. We hope that it won't be too high. Like if you just send a transaction right now, it's like $5 to $9. But interacting with Uniswap is when things get obviously very expensive. But of course, critically, you're compensated for your activity, like in the form of earning pollen tokens, right? Because you earn reputation points, so then that translates to some pollen tokens that you earn and can continue to earn passively. So, but in the future, we are looking to move to quote unquote gas transactions and or a layer 2 solution. Just to touch on the gasless transaction point quickly, that would be essentially, we're exploring deploying a relayer solution where people could instead pay for gas of sorts with pollen tokens, which then of course creates a new utility for pollen itself. And then you can just use your pollen tokens. So you don't have to pay, ETH. But yeah, otherwise then if we move to, layer 2, then certainly, and as people are using it there, then way lower fees, and everyone's happy that way as well. But again, you're incentivized for all your activities, so it counteracts the gas.
Right. So for now, yes, but later on, new developments.
Yes. Great. Exactly.
And this question was from LK, right? LK. You'll get notified by one of my colleagues, one of our colleagues. Yeah. And you can send in your BUSD wallet ID. Second question is from Nuara. Why did you choose the Meritocratic model for your DAO? What was your inspiration?
Yeah, well, so I guess again, this ties back to kind of the fundamental point of Pollen and how it changes how it shakes up the portfolio management industry. So in traditional finance, there's a portfolio manager and an investor relationship, and the portfolio manager decides what happens to the portfolio, and they get all the fees, right? And the investors have no real input as to what happens there, whether it's for an ETF, in the passive world, or an actively managed portfolio, maybe something run by, the BlackRocks or Blackstones of the world. There's no cross participation or input. Similarly, even in, the tokens or the platforms that have popped up so far in crypto, that do have, these indices like DeFi Pulse Index on token sets. So great platform, really, intuitive, but there's no community input. There's no meritocratic rewarding system to help, manage the portfolio, to help rebalance it, and so DPI just takes all the fees. Whereas here, anyone can participate in that and then in turn share in the benefits of that process.
Yeah, I think it was a very round answer. Then we go to the thank you, and then we go to the third from Ingva, if I pronounce it right. The question is as follows: the best performers will get the most voting power. What about newcomers in such a model?
Right. So there's a number of ways to essentially bootstrap, if you will, your voting power. Simply by being active and participating, you'll be able to, and if you build up a good track record, you'll be able to build up essentially your reputation. So then eventually that'll translate to more and more pollen tokens that you can earn per given block, right? So that's a main way to go about it. You can also be more passive about it, as I mentioned in the delegation model that I touched on earlier. Or of course you can go and buy pollen tokens if you want, and then have more voting power that way.
Oh, so exactly. So if I'm new in the space, and I'm just I think I want to be the most powerful voter in the whole pollen space. I just buy 100K of pollen tokens, and then I'm the man.
Exactly. I mean, so there's we anticipate that it'd be, similar to how, Bitcoin is essentially protected against attacks just because it's very expensive to take over the network. Obviously on a different scale, but we anticipate that, pollen, token, you're not going to just be able to buy up like 10 or 20% of the supply. Like that'd be just like economically this just be very costly, but certainly you can get more voting power by just going and buying the token.
Yeah, but this is a little bit extreme, right?
Yeah, but if you wanted to go and buy like 100 grand worth of pollen on an exchange, I mean,
be my guest.
Why not? You could, yes, of course.
Okay, clear, thanks. Then we have the fourth question from, I hope I pronounced it right again, Moises. Also congratulations. The question as followed: what are the security measures? Well, wait one sec. What are the security measures you adopt to ensure maximum security for users so they can trust you?
Yeah, so good question. I assume this can, I mean, security can mean a lot of different things, of course. The contracts themselves, will live on a multi-sig wallet. It'll be, completely decentralized there. We have this alpha that's been running now live on Ropsten testnet. So we've been working out kinks for, now the last couple months, so that by the time we're ready to launch on mainnet, it'll be a pretty secure system and smart contracts. And also critically, we're in kind of the process of getting audited. I don't want to say by who exactly yet, but
I thought it was also a question from Hien, right?
Yeah, the contracts will be audited, certainly by some of the top auditors in the space.
Yeah. Okay, great. And thank you again. And then we have the last question, and I will add something to this question because you can interpret it more differently. The question is from Kushik Samala: how can I get more return from using your project, just from using Pollen? But I will add to this question, compared to investing just through regular exchanges or yield farming, other possibilities.
Staking, for example.
For example.
Yeah, so there's a couple different things, ways that you can achieve that on the Pollen platform, on Pollen DAO. The first, of course, is so we can't promise that Pi will outperform, and I'm not even sure that that's the goal of Pi itself. It is to be a bit more of a risk managed portfolio of sorts.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's up to the community what happens with it, right? Because it's totally in their hands. It's up to them. Beyond that, so I guess the first thing is as it ties to Pi, and in the future other custom indices, custom asset tokens. Just by holding them, you have a broader exposure to more that's happening in the space. So I don't know about you, but I should have bought a whole bunch of alts and different tokens last summer that I was looking at. I mean, I was gonna buy Matic in like August, and then I just like forgot. Maybe if it was in a portfolio like Pi, or some other people who are plugged in and know what they're seeing, like what's the next thing, they'll submit a proposal to add it to Pi, and then when it 3 months later when it like pops, if you're holding Pi, then you already have that exposure, and you didn't even have to go out of your way yourself to go and find exactly what that next 1000 or 3000x token is.
So right? Eventually you're leaning a little bit on their knowledge about certain investments, right? So you don't have to think that much by yourself.
Yeah, there's a collective intelligence component, if you will.
Collective intelligence. That's a nice word to say.
Like if you think about it, so everyone's in group chats, and they talk in their own personal chats about different things they're seeing, whether it's tokens, trading strategies, investment decisions. But then they go back to their personal portfolios, and then you have to do it, with your imperfect and incomplete information that you saw versus what the other 300 people saw. With Pollen, you can just buy Pi and forget it, right? Other people will have already made decisions to put it into the portfolio, and if you have an idea, you can submit that idea, but then you benefit from everyone else's collective intelligence that based on what they're seeing. So there's the buy and forget it kind of mentality, and then for people who just want to be passive, obviously there's the reward system for people who want to be active. And then with Pollen token itself, again, akin to yield farming, the delegation method is essentially that, right? If you delegate to someone else, you still earn some of the rewards. You're splitting rewards with them, but you're not even having to be that active. So it's like, instead of like, providing liquidity for liquidity's sake, which is what yield farming really is, you're enabling someone else to have more voting power to help do something productive in managing the portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. So it's also, it's not one or the other, right? It's you can just add it in your total strategy of passive income, and growing into the space. Wow, I think we're still early in the crypto space, right?
Yes, definitely very early still.
Yeah, still maybe 3 or 4% adoption or something, I hope. Thank you, Roman. These were the community questions. And again, guys, thank you. We can't say that enough because we got sent in a lot of questions. Thank you for your questions. Roman, do you have any things you have left to say before we
tease us a little bit?
Oh yeah, the teaser, Roman, the teaser.
Teaser.
So which date, which chain, and now, do you have anything you want to add?
So I can't say a target date yet, but we are working very hard. We're getting close, and we'll keep you guys posted and updated as we have updates. But yeah, we're very excited for what the team's
what's coming,
built and what's coming.
Yes, we are excited too.
And thank all you guys for your questions and for tuning in.
Okay,
yes, great. Thanks
for your time.
Thanks, and just keep us posted, and if needed, if there are some great updates, we will post this, we will share this within when you guys who are watching within the community, through not only the Telegram, the Twitter. Just don't forget, if you see this video, also subscribe to the YouTube channel, because We recently started with these AMAs, right? And we got a lot of positive feedback. And but we still don't have 1,000 subscribers yet, but we're growing very hard. So everybody, don't forget to subscribe, comment below. Roman, again, thank you, my friend. You know, I'm bullish on Pollen. I will make you know, when it's live, I think I will be the guy that do some proposals.
Buying power.
Yeah, and you will do voting or do you the proposal?
I will do proposals too.
Proposals too. And the guys behind the camera will do the voting, right?
They will vote first.
Roman, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
We also keep you updated. Yes.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Wesley, and thanks, Hien.
Have a good day. Stay connected. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.